Welcome to another episode of Golden Nuggets, Tips and Tales powered by Property Finder, bringing you real tools, real tactics, and real talk from the region's top real estate professionals. Stay tuned for practical, no fluff advice, because behind every great listing is an agent armed with top tips and powerful takeaways you won't want to miss. We're back today with Lorenzo Cross, who's one of Property Finder's super agents, and he works for Strada. Welcome back to the show. And today we're going to be giving tips for buyers, what they should know, what they should have in place before they call an agent. So what do you, Lorenzo, wish buyers knew before they called you?
Just the basics, to be honest, of what they're initially looking for. I think our job as an agent as well, where we bring the value, is educating them, because a lot of the time what someone thinks they want is actually quite different to what they end up buying.
That's so true, because even me, myself, when I go through the process, I'm always very clear. I'm like, I want this and I want that, and I'm going to spend that. And I always end up in a different area with a different budget.
Yeah.
And that's probably down to the agent.
Exact same as me. I was looking for something completely different to what I ended up buying for my home now. And it's only when you go through the process of actually looking through what's available and someone telling you, have you considered this? But you only get that over a period of time, which I think for the initial call, it's quite difficult to try and go through and vet someone from start to finish, because the process as a buyer can then be quite challenging. And it's only when you go through it yourself that you realize you're calling through Property Finder, speaking to all the agents. All you want to do is view that property that you think in your head is the right one for you. Otherwise, you would never have called them in the first place. And you're getting hit with 20 or 30 questions. What's your pre-approval? How long have you been looking? What have you seen before? Where it can get quite frustrating. Whereas I feel like it's a much nicer approach of saying, okay, when can you meet, to book their time before doing anything else? And then when you meet with them face to face, then you can get all the information and start to gauge what it is that they're looking for, and if there's something else that they haven't thought of, to then present it at that point.
So I've heard this quite a lot on the season, actually. A lot of consultations take place. Whereas if I was a buyer, I'd feel like, no, I just want to get to the viewing. I don't want to go through your consultation process. Just let's have a conversation when we're at the property.
I had this with a renovation project we've got going on at the moment, where I knew what we wanted. I knew from the location on the photos, I'd actually been outside the villa before. And when I was calling the agent saying, I want to get in to see it, just when can I go? You don't even need to come along. I'm in
outside.
The area. And it was, but let me see your pre-approval. What's your budget? What's this, what that? And in the end you go, I'm actually more inclined to try and get the unit through someone else now, because you've been so difficult. Whereas for me, I personally don't like to just meet for, say, a coffee. I would rather meet with purpose, to go to the property and show them what they've initially...
You do a lot with purpose, don't you?
I try to.
Watch his other episode about social media. He posts with purpose, and now you want to meet with purpose. Okay.
Yeah, because it's your time and the client's time as well, right? Even if they're not ready to buy straight away, people have still got so much going on here. Everyone's so busy that you don't just want to take an hour or two out of their day without giving them any value. That if they're inquiring on the property, I think the best thing to do is show them it whilst you're on that viewing, rather than walking around saying, here's the kitchen, here's the bathroom. You're actually just talking them through what it is that they've looked at before. All the questions you would have asked them on the phone, but when you're in front of them and you can start to build a rapport with them, it's far easier to extract that information.
So most agents will qualify on that initial phone call. And you're saying it's kind of like a bit invasive, it's too many questions, I'll just pick up the phone and speak to someone else. But if there were 3 questions you should be prepared to answer as a buyer, what should those 3 questions be?
The standard questions you're going to get asked will be, are you cash or mortgage?
And why does that make a difference to the agent? Why do they want to know?
There's a few different reasons for it. The first one is, there's certain sellers in the market, depending on their situation and why they're selling, they physically can't take a mortgage buyer. If the property is way above market price, the chances are it won't value up. So having a mortgage buyer is going to be quite difficult.
Explain what that means.
So when you're purchasing a property as a mortgage buyer, you get your pre-approval from the bank, which will say you're approved up to 10 million. When we sign on that property, which is, say, valued at 10 million, then there will be
A surveyor.
a surveyor, exactly. The valuation company will come in.
Sent by the mortgage company. Yeah.
Exactly. And then they will give a valuation report, which is usually based off of a few factors: what's sold recently in the area, what's available for sale now, if there's been any renovations to it. But generally speaking, they won't always take that into account. And the problem we've got in the market now, because it's moving at such a fast pace, a property that sold a month ago is quite common to then see that actually 30 days down the line has sold for 200,000 more, 300,000 more. So that valuation might actually come in at 9.5, which means as the buyer, you can now only borrow 500,000 less than what you're initially expecting. So you have to bridge that difference.
So if you can't bridge that difference, then it's not happening.
Exactly.
That's the reason why you get asked the question, cash or mortgage. It's got nothing to do with like, oh, I want to know how
much money have you got?
Yeah, I want to know how easy this is going to be to close, because obviously cash deals, cash to cash is the easiest transaction. That could happen in a day.
Exactly.
But if it's mortgage to mortgage, like a mortgage buyer and a mortgage seller, that transaction can take months.
Yeah.
So it's just to know what you can be shown.
Exactly. And there's not actually much point as well as a buyer, if you're going into it knowing I've got pre-approval, going and viewing 10 villas and 8 out of them 10, the seller won't accept your offer because they need money in a week or 2 time. So in that side, you are benefiting the buyer by asking, but I still feel like it's better to get in front of them. And usually you're not just going to show one property anyway. If someone's coming out of their way, you're going to show them 2 or 3. So
you think so? You hope so.
Yeah. Although it's getting more difficult now with the supply in the market.
Okay. What other questions should you be prepared to answer? What
have you seen before?
How does that help you?
I mean, a lot of the time brokers will be asking it, in all honesty, to just try and work out not to waste your time as well. If they've inquired in Jumeirah Golf Estates and they've seen Arabian Ranches, Victory Heights, they know they don't like them areas, but they want JG, then you go, okay, I can rule that out. But then also it's then try and paint a picture of what it is that they're actually wanting, because the problem is so many people get quite fixated on one area because their friend lives there, or they went to a barbecue there 6 months ago and loved it. You go, okay, it might work for that person, but with our budget, we might be better off looking somewhere else that's 10 minutes down the road. You get a bigger plot, you get a bigger built up, that they don't even know the area exists. So it's painting that picture to try and work out how many different projects could potentially work for that client.
And how far along in their search process they've got to. Now, at what point do you feel to yourself, this person's never going to buy anything? If they tell you they've seen how many properties?
It's difficult to judge a book by its cover here, because on the flip side, you have a lot of buyers that will come through where they're saying, I want this specific unit. What's the price? Usually a red flag for me is when someone starts negotiating the price before they've even seen it on just from calling, because you go, okay, it looks like they'd be solid on paper, that they're ready to go. But chances are when it gets down to it and they see the property, there's actually something that they didn't consider. My advice would be go into it with quite a sort of blank canvas mindset, that whether someone's at the beginning of their search or they know exactly what they want, treat everyone the same, because you don't really know how soon someone's ready to pull the trigger.
And from your experience, how many properties do your buyers view before they pull that trigger? Generally
speaking, for the market, it's 12 to 14 viewings per deal closed. So if you're viewing 12 units for someone, chances are they're going to offer by that point, as long as you're going through the right process of finding out exactly what they want. You're not just showing them anything.
You're a buyer watching this and you're just about to book in your 15th viewing. What would you say to that buyer?
Even in this market, it's difficult to do this, but I would say try and take your time to make sure you are buying the right investment. It's not the case that even though the market is in a very good position right now and there isn't a huge amount of inventory available, you don't have to buy the first thing that you've seen. And there will be other deals that come up. It might not necessarily be at the exact same price, but if you're looking at it from an investment, there might be certain other projects that do provide a similar return on investment. So don't just rush into it, but also take your broker's advice on it. If you've met with them enough times and they're not just trying to ram a project down your throat, but saying, we've seen everything else, we know we like this,
we've listened to you,
now is the time to make the decision, then that's when you do have to be a little bit quick with the decision making.
All right, so let's flip the script now. What questions should buyers be asking their agent?
I think the main ones would be, how long have you been in the market for?
Why does that matter?
Just to try and gauge how much experience they have. And everyone started off on day one in the industry not knowing anything.
Probably in leasing.
Yeah, exactly. I was in leasing for a year. So there's nothing against that, but it depends on how far along you are with your journey as well as a buyer. If you're an experienced buyer and experienced investor in the market, a lot of the time they will know more than the agents. So it actually doesn't matter who they're buying through. They're just using that person to facilitate the sale because they have the listing. But if you're pretty new to the journey, or you do need your hand held, it's very difficult for someone to do that when they're fresh off the boat. They've never gone through the process themselves. In comparison to someone that's been here for a while, they've sold X amount of units in the area. They may have even invested in the area. That it's a very different approach that they can take to try and help you with your journey. And
the other point to add to that is, if you are fresh off the boat or have been in the industry for just a couple of years, you've only experienced a rising market. And you haven't experienced the cycles.
I'm guilty of that as well. So I've been here since I moved here in January 2021. So the second I got here, the market's been on fire. I think the benefit of what I would say of being here in that market is then also understanding, when you're spending a lot of time with the investors who have been here for years, understanding what went through in the previous cycles. I know it's very different having gone through it as seen it in person. It's very different to just reading about it. But if you still do your research and understand why that happened in, say, 2020, or why it happened in 08, that you can then start to try and predict what will happen in the future. But there's also an argument to it to say that the newer the broker, the hungrier they might be. So you might have someone who they will work specifically with you because they've only got one or two other clients that they're dealing with at the moment, compared to an agent who might have been in the market for 15 years, but they're inundated with inquiries that they can't give you the full service that they would like to.
And I think it's mostly just a shift in focus. So now, the whole industry is obsessed with, I need more leads, I need more leads, I want more leads, I need more leads. I'm not getting any leads. Then it moves to, I need listings. I need listings. How do I find sellers? How do I find landlords? It's just flitting between the two.
It's very easy as well, but with the nature of our business, where majority of people are on commission only, to try and just blame the market environment. Even what we've been in for the past few years, I'm lucky enough to have only seen the market on the upwards trend, but there's still a huge amount of negativity where people say, I don't have enough stock, or, oh, my buyer's working with everyone in the market. But you go, if you're working hard enough, you do the basics, and you're providing whoever you meet with as much value as you can, the deal will eventually come afterwards. The money is a byproduct of that, but just don't chase the money, chase the KPIs to begin with.
And for you, what's the difference between an agent that closes or an agent who cares?
Longevity is the main one, and that's again tying into why I would ask the question of how long you've been here for, because unfortunately, with the nature of the business, again being commission only, it's very difficult to try and understand, is that person advising me for my best interest? Are they doing it because they need the money? And it's human nature as well. If you haven't got the money, you're thinking, I need the deal to come. But the longevity, it's very difficult to be in this industry and be successful for a long period of time, 3, 4, 5 years, in some cases decades, if you haven't got that approach, because you won't get repeat business.
So your final tip for home seekers?
Do your due diligence. When you meet a broker that you trust and you get on with, I would say stick to that broker and listen to their advice as much as you can.
So don't just go out and find every broker and confuse yourself, because they will work with each other as well.
Yeah, exactly. To begin with, you've almost got to, because you can't just go with the first person that you speak to. But when you build that relationship and you understand that you're both on the same page, then they'll do the dirty work for you.
It's not just about getting leads. It's about getting the repeat clients. That's what the real goal should be. I hope you enjoyed that episode. Catch the rest of Lorenzo's episodes. And while you're at it, why not binge the whole season?